Already, as promised, the great Chase Griffin. Chase, I've been looking forward to this for a while. Honestly, I didn't know a lot about you and everything that you've done for the good of and beyond sports, really, entrepreneurship, the American dream. I can't wait to get into everything with you. But for those who don't know, Chase, it sells you short to say that you're a quarterback in this glorious game of football because you're fighting for more than that. But how's it going today, man?
Well, I'm excited to be here Friday. Just finished up the week of workouts. Got a busy day planned ahead, but I'm glad we were able to get some time here to talk.
Two-time NIL Athlete of the Year, I believe. Before that, Gatorade Player of the Year down in Texas, quarterback at UCLA. And it's funny this as Tommy Callahan once said, a lot of people go to college for 7 years. I mean, you're going into your sixth year, chasing your third degree, so a little different than Tommy. Awesome. I mean, how do you do it all?
I have fun with it all. It's really just about remaining grateful, seeing things as opportunities. And I chose to go to UCLA for a reason. I think, over my time and experience here, I've been finding new ways to maximize that decision.
So I guess start at the start because when you were a little kid, I want to say what like I don't know how old you were in the video you posted on X. I mean, your dream was really to play football at UCLA, right?
I always wanted to go back to LA. I was born at UCLA Santa Monica Hospital, which is actually right down the street from where I live now, close to Wilshire. And when I got that call from Coach Kelly, I remember being so excited. Told my mother if they offered me, I'm gonna commit on the spot, and that's exactly what happened. It's been a blessing.
That's great, man. It's and your game speaks for itself. I mean, the numbers you put up and the national recognition, even everything you've done at UCLA. But when did you realize you could have a bigger impact on sports, like beyond the field?
I think part of that goes into why I chose UCLA. It wasn't just because I was born here, or because it is a great school. It's really about the folks who have come and paved the way for what it means not only to be an athlete, but what it means to be a student at UCLA. You have Ralph Bunch, Jackie Robinson, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Arthur Ashe, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The cohort of college athletes and not just the athletic history, but the Black history at UCLA is up there with any other institution in America. And so when I chose UCLA, I felt like it was right in line with utilizing all of my talents, both on and off the field. And I feel sort of the onus upon myself and other athletes who choose to, rep those four letters to just be our best self on and off the field. And I think the best way that I contribute to my community is, trying to be an example primarily for my brother and my sister, and then just continuing to take advantage of opportunities and spread that wealth to others, whether it be information sharing, whether it be empowerment, whether it be, actually giving through philanthropy. Those are all things that are near and dear to my heart that I also know embody what it means to be a great collegiate athlete here at UCLA.
So when you first get to campus, NIL, image and likeness. I mean, we don't really even have to say that at this point. It just kind of rolls off the tongue, NIL, and everybody knows what we're talking about. But it's not a thing, right? I mean, when you first get there, athletes, I guess, by the letter of the law, aren't allowed to get paid for their talents. And
Yeah,
now look
books
where
and
we
ball.
are.
Yeah, it was just books and ball. And, uh, I had already done some work with brands just because my senior year in Texas, I was the Gatorade Player of the Year, Ford Tough Player of the Year, and I'd won awards for both In-N-Out and Whataburger. So I'd gone to events, I'd done branded press releases. Obviously, I wasn't compensated for any of that. But I understood how the value that I could create could be beneficial to a brand. And in the same way, I went to Hutto High School, one horse town at the time. I think we're getting another high school soon, but at the time it was one horse town, Friday Night Lights environment. And I got used to, from the age of 15, doing interviews as a main representative for my community. And when you learn how to represent something larger than yourself, whether it be your town, your school, your family, you get used to having something not just for you to lose, but you have a reputation to carry for others. And I think that's sort of a mindset that has prepared me when we ushered into being able to work with brands in the NIL space to be a good brand advocate and brand ambassador.
It's just crazy to me. It really shouldn't be a controversial issue. Maybe it's not anymore, but at the core of NIL is the free market and the American dream and an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old having a talent and the free market saying this is what you're worth, right? Like go get every penny you can. And are we past the point of that being a debate? I guess start there. Like, do you think that there's still people who believe a college scholarship is enough and college athletes shouldn't get a dime beyond that?
I think when you look at the landscape, where you're sort of starting to touch on is pay for play. NIL, is the
Right.
ability for college athletes to
I'm
monetize.
kind of blurring it all there. Sorry.
Right, right. Well, no, I mean, it's important to recognize the distinction, just because
Yeah.
it's easy to overlap. There's a lot of athletes who, in the age of NIL, still haven't been compensated at all. If they don't know how to advocate for a brand, or maybe they haven't found a brand that matches who they are authentically, or they just frankly don't have, time or energy or wherewithal to create content, then a lot of these folks haven't made a single dime from NIL. First time they'll be paid is during the revenue share age, which will be here much sooner than many think. Might even be here this fall with proposal Project D1 by Governor Baker, who's currently the president of the NCAA. Um, I think when you look at how society is viewing that, uh, public sentiment is definitely up. From the athlete perspective, I think the vast majority support it. And then from the school perspective and conference perspective in particular, they're gearing up and preparing for it. It's less of a how do we feel about it, and now at this point, how do we prepare for it and create an advantageous situation for college athletes, because the conferences that create advantageous conditions for college athletes are going to be able to recruit the best, and they'll have the most champions. So I think it's sort of at a point where public opinion is there enough, and it'll continue to grow, similar to NIL, where before NIL, people were sort of hesitant on it as soon as it was passed, and people kept on watching games, and you know, players weren't going on strike because they were getting NIL money. Uh, College football remained, having one of their highest watched, if not the highest watched season. So I think in the same way, NIL honestly elevated college sports because now you actually get to see another face of the athlete off of the field. Revenue share will do the same, and it'll empower the college athletes. And once they have a stake in the business, then they'll actually be incentivized to grow it.
So perfectly said. It's crazy to think that for the longest time, and I've mentioned this on the podcast a few times. There's an article, I think Taylor Branch wrote it in like 2011, 2012, The Shame of College Athletics and the basis on which the NCAA was founded. It's crazy. I mean, how the NCAA as a body was kind of founded on fallacies and the illusion of power. And it was kind of grown and grown and grown over years, over decades to get to this point. So to be a key player and kind of undoing that may be a little strong, but empowering the people who make it what it is. Right? You guys are the ones that are filling these stadiums and these arenas. Hell, it's bigger than that, and I'm sure as you've noted, people just enrolling into college. I mean, everybody listening, think about being a kid, who your favorite college team. I remember watching Syracuse Orangemen, not even the Orange at the time, go to the Final Four. Go to the national championship game against Kentucky in '96 and thinking, man, I want to go to Syracuse one day. Right? I wanted to get into journalism, and they had a good journalism school, but I wasn't thinking that in second grade. So at the core, it's simple. It's just free market, the American dream. And I want to give you the opportunity here. Like you were just in Congress, right? So what's going on there, and what was that experience like? And what's still kind of some of the legalities, if you can explain it in layman terms, going on with maybe the NCAA kind of still um, fighting certain components of this all?
Right. So first off, I just want to thank Congresswoman Trahan for having me there and her team for reaching out. Around 6 months ago, I was asked to provide a quote and some consultation on a bill that Congresswoman Trahan and Senator Murphy had put out called the College Athlete Economic Freedom Act. And as of now, it's still the only piece of legislature that I've seen emerge from Congress that I think addresses a lot of what needs to be addressed in the correct way. Um, Fast forward, they had reached out to me about a bill called the FAIR Act that have been pushed forward by the Republican side of the House subcommittee. Um, there were a lot of things in this bill that regurgitated similar language that the NCAA has used to have almost a paternalistic control over college athlete rights and just the entire industry as a whole. I mean, flat out, the NCAA operates as an anomaly. It is dissimilar from every other industry uh, that sort of brings together sports and entertainment and generates the amount of money that it does. So, I mean, flat out, I think that's why they're continuously getting sued in courts and why courts are continuously suing. It is not in line with the rest of American industries that have similar factors. And then when I was at Congress, it was an amazing experience. I think I'm still at the point where I'm sort of accepting and realizing, what happened. I got to speak in Congress. It was a huge blessing. But I think at the same time, it was important for them to hear from an athlete that, frankly has gone through NIL, has gone through pre NIL, post NIL, has seen the positive changes, not only in my own life, but in other athletes' lives who've been able to take advantage of it and to speak truthfully to it, anecdotally to it. A lot of media keeps athlete perspective out of athlete stories, ironically enough, is part of
Right.
the reason why I started my podcast, The Athletes Bureau.
Right.
And so when I was there, I just noticed the terminology, the jargon that they use uh, was evidence of an echo chamber that's really been brewing for a very long time between the NCAA, the media, and now Congress. And it's the reason why amongst college athletes, Congress is literally the least trusted entity when it comes to preserving college athlete rights. And I think in the same way, preserving the legitimacy of college athletic economic, that entire landscape.
I should have mentioned that at the top to everybody. Check out the Athletes Bureau. You founded it, newsletter, podcast, right? Kind of tackling all of this.
Yes, sir. So the Athletes Bureau um, really came because I was looking at the media, not just surrounding NIL or rev share, just college athletics in general. And you see reports on stories, you see reports on players themselves where the player's not even contacted. You see reports on conference movements that don't take into any account how the players feel or what they had as far as their perspective add to that decision. Uh, and it just continuously showcases how the NCAA has consistently been able to cut out using media, using other institutions, been able to cut out any type of equity for college athletes. And I think we're at the time where that's changing, at least on the legal side. And now it's about to start changing on the NCAA policy side. I think NIL was the first domino. So, in short, the Athletes Bureau is for athletes and for those who care about them. And it's a mixture of how to go through NIL, how to do your deals well, what to look out for. And then our main red thread is following along the court cases, following along the media, following along proposals, and following along new developments in the college athletic economic landscape and how athletes will be paid sooner than later, how athletes may be classified as employees sooner than later. And once we're employees, how does that affect other aspects of our life? Can we unionize, collective bargaining? These are all topics that I think will continue to legitimize the space, and the Athletes Bureau will forever be a point of information, of advocacy for athletes and for those who care about us.
What a great idea, because I never knew this. Reading, I believe it was Carter Yates's story in Texas football. So fascinating. I'll link it here in the post. But I think he pointed out that only 5% of articles around the NIL topic quote a college athlete. That's kind of wild. Like this is who it's affecting. This is who it's about. Yet you hardly hear at all from the college athletes in that landscape. So what a perfect opportunity for you to create a world where that completely changes that narrative.
Right. Right. And we're having fun with it. And almost all of our writers um, are college students. So they're folks who are on campus who understand the importance of college athletics to the entire college experience. And they're excellent at what they do. We take pride in treating our writers with equity as well. And making sure that it's a good place to write for. And we're constantly looking to partner with folks who want to, continue building in the space and see similar vision. And I think, look, the media is about to be gifted a whole lot more stories if they're willing to tell them from the athlete perspective. Because for the first time ever, you will have athletes on the payroll who are possibly employees, and you'll be able to see the effects that this new status has on their life
Right.
and
You're not
how
terrified of getting benched by Nick Saban for saying the
right,
wrong thing. You're getting paid. It's okay.
right,
Speak a little more
right,
freely.
right. And not just that, folks will be able to send more money back home. That changes lives. Folks will be able to save more money. That changes lives once they leave college. And folks will be able to practice paying taxes, be able to practice good financial habits, and be able to build generational wealth building habits, whether they make money or not in college.
And dude, like gosh, I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of shouting into the abyss for no reason, and nobody disagrees, but I just don't get the counter argument to any of this because, and I'm admittedly pro player. If I have a bias covering the sport, the players are the ones putting their bodies on the line, their brains on the line. Just look at like the Steve McMichael stuff this week into the Hall of Fame. ALS. I don't know how you can't make the connection between the sport and what it's doing to his life, where he's got a 16-year-old daughter that he might not be able to see graduate high school or won't. I mean, his health is taking a turn here. I you have an opportunity to make money off of a skill, to change your life, to change your family's life. Everybody listening to this podcast has read our stories. I mean, where so many of these players come from. I mean, hell, Damar Hamlin, and we all know Damar Hamlin now, but McKees rocks. He told me a couple years before he nearly died on the football field that more than half of his friends are dead that he grew up with. Right. I mean, and it's not abnormal. So why not? Like there's a lot of money to be had in this sport. Why not have that money be channeled for good in these different areas? And if the counterpoint is, well, these are 18-year-old kids, they don't know what to do with this kind of wealth. They don't know. Isn't that what college is for? To figure shit out? Right? Maybe there should be financial classes and courses and people in places that like now they help you kind of deal with this influx of cash that you have in your life. I'm sure this is all kind of going through your own head as you navigate NIL.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at heart, it adds to the cumulative education of the college experience. If you want athletes to know how to pay taxes, give them money to taxes with. If you want athletes to learn how to budget, give them money to budget with. It's one thing to take a class; it's another thing to practice. And look, every single other industry that is similar, especially ones that are primarily driven through media conglomerates, um, the talent's paid. And we just saw it's perfect timing. We just saw the WAG and SAG strikes. We just saw the importance of promoting equity for the talent side. Because without it, the product isn't the same. And as soon as you give college athletes more stake, they're going to be incentivized to contribute and grow the value for everyone else. We are by nature value creators. This is just the first time that we're able to capture on it.
How did you really get into to this? I think there might be people wondering, wow, how come I'm not seeing this name in mock drafts right now? Like I want to say 30 deals with different brands. Maybe that's even on the short end at this point. I mean, you've kind of blown the lid off of this stuff. How did you become the face of NIL when you played and you played well, but it's not necessarily Caleb Williams, torching defenses every week?
I think uh, for me, whatever I do, I try to be excellent in it. And this season, you never know. If I get the opportunity to play a lot of games this year, I know I'm going to play well because that's how I prepare. But I prepare for the opportunities that I have, and God blessed me with opportunities early in the NIL space. I was able to work with a number one brand off bat. With Unilever and Degree in the Breaking Limits campaign, I was able to demonstrate my ability to speak on camera and my ability to deliver a return on investment. Right after that, I had to deal with Shell. And I'm really grateful for the folks that, helped make those deals possible. And at the same time, I'm grateful that I was, at a point where I was prepared and I felt like I could authentically bring value to the brands that I worked with. And by demonstrating that early, I was able to build a momentum, build a standard, not just for myself, but also the other brands that I worked with. And I was able to, set a template. And then I really, was able to look introspectively and be like, what am I about? Uh, it really came down to values. It's how I operate in every sense of business in my life, really every single relationship in my life. Came down to my personal values. I work with brands that aligned with my personal values, economic value. How does the brand that I'm working with pay me or compensate me in a way that's on par with what I think I should be getting for my time and effort? And then how do I take that economic value and create community value and empowerment for others? And that's what really led to me wanting to build out my own foundation. I've personally given to groups like the LA Regional Food Bank and encouraged others to do so. And I'm really most proud of that work, just because
Yeah.
it's one thing to be able to put yourself in a good position, but if you're able to affect others, I think that's a true testament to your individual success.
Plus, I mean, your UCLA is really the front lines for this whole discussion with Ed O'Bannon. I believe he's the one who introduced this as a cause worth fighting for, really, back in, I mean, he played in the mid 90s, but it was like 2014 when this really started rolling.
Yeah. And he had been fighting for a very long time come that 2014 decision.
Yeah.
And he still continued to fight. And then Ramogi Huma, who's another Bruin, has been fighting very hard on the legal side, especially on the topic of labor laws and unionization. So, like I said at the jump, if you want something to be done to bring progress,
Yeah.
check out the Bruins. We got something going on.
And you can play too. I was just watching some of your clips, man. That there was a throw, 4th and 18, overtime, Utah. Man, that was an NFL level throw. What kind of game do you have beyond the
Uh,
business?
yeah, I mean, when it comes on the field, that's really where I feel like I'm at my best. I remember I did a high school interview and I said I'm at my best two times when I'm playing quarterback and when I'm praying. And I think that's still true to this day. I'm a quarterback first and foremost. When I'm on that field, anytime I'm around the facility, I take pride in being myself and being who I am as a person while I'm a player. And I feel like that same mentality as far as supplying energy to others and giving my all and remaining cool, calm, and collected under pressure and delivering is sort of how I approach life in general. And it really does all come down to authenticity for me. I know it's, you can say it over and over again, but if you're in situations where you can be yourself, it don't feel like work. It's effortless, and I feel like you're able to perform well.
Here's where I do struggle with this all, I guess. Maybe you can kind of help all of us work through it that have the same tug of war in our minds where I'm all about it, you know, um, athlete empowerment, player empowerment, get every dime that is rightfully yours. Yeah, then you kind of look at college football and players just kind of going all over the country. I mean, in the portal, school to school, face a little bit of turmoil, face one obstacle, and they're gone, like bailing. And there is something to be said for staying at a school, working through some shit, being told no, being told you're not good enough, working harder, and then working your way up to get that starting spot and perform. Um, how do you kind of reconcile that? I mean, that you're somebody who's kind of worked for everything that you've gotten, right? I mean, there is a value to that where the system that's in place, it does kind of literally incentivize you to just go somewhere else if it's if you're unhappy at any point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, I think it's important that we legitimize college athletics, just because there's so many things that we see. Because the NCAA operates as an anomaly, we place college athletes, even amongst their peers on campus, into their own box. When you look at a typical professional trajectory, people work 10, 15 jobs over their lifetime. And no one would say, if I'm leaving one place of business to go to another, even if it's after a year or year and a half of work, uh, oh, you're just money hungry. It's like, no, that person's trying to progress in their career. I think in the same way, when we look at college athletics, coaches do this all the time. If they're coaching at a smaller school, they're gonna go to a bigger school if they start having success. It's just rare that someone coaches for 20 straight years at the same college. And I think college athletes, we have to view them as actual individuals with adult goals, with, after 4 years of college, with adult responsibilities, where if they're not choosing the best place and best positioning for them, then I don't think they're doing it the right way. And at the very heart of it, there is no college athlete who is on scholarship at a school right now who did not earn it. There are countless hours, there are countless sacrifices. There are days at 13 and at 14 years old where people make grown men and grown women decisions in order to place them on the right track. And so there isn't a single athlete who gets to college who isn't where they're supposed to be. And then if people are mad about the portal, I'd say, well, revenue share is your best friend, because maybe an athlete who's making $80,000 a year to go to a college feels a little bit more secure about staying another year and working, and staying another year and seeing if they could rise up the depth chart at that school rather than leaving.
Oh,
If and then at the same time, prior to rev share, right now there are athletes who are being forced into the portal right now. There's athletes who are getting called into their end of year meeting with the head coach who are being told, look, you're never going to play another down here. If you want to chase your dream of going to the NFL, you might as well leave. And they're doing it for free. So don't tell me that athletes are out here abusing the portal when coaches can just up and leave. That's exactly what happened at UCLA.
yeah. And you're right. It's no different than anybody in any profession looking around and making those decisions. I mean, this would have been after college, but I can remember, working at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, having an opportunity to go a couple other places for a lot more money, but knowing that I'd be happier where I'm at and have a chance to grow where I'm at. And it's like you just have to kind of process these decisions and do what's best for you. And maybe that's where it takes, more mentors, more dads, just more coaches, just people in these kids' lives to kind of maybe steer toward good decisions. And is that stuff kind of happening to your knowledge? Like as NIL grows, do you think that there's enough guidance out there? I mean, maybe that's an area where these two worlds can kind of coexist.
I mean, I think these are more just broad social questions.
Yeah.
Does you have enough guidance or mentorship?
I
I
should
think
say the colleges themselves.
right. I think from the college landscape, it just depends on the team. Some coaches take pride in developing, other coaches don't. And if coaches don't want athletes going into the portal, then start recruiting freshmen. Um, when
Yeah.
your transfer class is larger than your freshman class, you can't be mad about athletes go into the portal because clearly that is the better way to be recruited.
It's it's sending coaches into either retirement or to the NFL too, right? I mean, hey, this is maybe how it should have been all along. So adapt or leave.
Right. And then I think from the coach perspective, if you're recruiting primarily from the transfer portal, you can't be the same one saying that too many athletes are going into the transfer portal. It doesn't make sense to
That's a good place to close out right there. Well said. Well, thanks so much, Chase. This was great. Where can everybody find you if they want to listen to you, read you? I'm sure they do after this.
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram, Twitter at ChaseQB11. I'm on LinkedIn just as Chase Griffin. And then if you want to learn more about the Athletes Bureau, check us out, subscribe. We're on Substack. And we have a podcast, a check writer series where we interview CMOs, CEOs, and folks in the C-suite at companies that have invested in the college athletes. And there it's very informative. We have a little fun and we just learn about where, from the company perspective, NIL has been advantageous and how it can continue to grow moving forward. But Tyler, I really appreciate you. I appreciate your listeners. And this was fun.
Thank you so much, Chase. Everybody subscribe. You won't be disappointed.